Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and today it's time for another weekly wrap-up. I don't have a lot of things to talk about today. I only finished 2 books over the past week, and those are both for books that fit for the summer romance bingo thing, and they're both audios. So let's get into the books that I finished. The first book that I finished was Fall from India Place. This is the 4th book in the On Dublin Street series. This is a new adult series that follows different women with every book. So once you get a complete story from all of them, but in the newer books you sort of get glimpses into the other characters from the previous books as well. So this particular book, it follows this girl called Hannah, who we meet actually in the first or second book. I don't remember when we first meet her. But in this one, we find out that she is not one that she doesn't want to have anything to do with boys and men in her life. She was burned pretty hard by a man she had a lot of feelings for. She had her first time with him, and just after that he left Scotland to go back to the States without anything. And now it's sort of 5 years later, and so the story picks up from there. Hannah is a school teacher, and she also does some freelance teaching, a volunteer sort of job, where she's teaching adults to read and write, so that they can send out applications, so they can improve their writing skills in any way. So something she does for her own free will. Also on a random day, she bumps into Marco, the boy that she had this fling with 5 years prior to this, and finds out that he was back like a couple of months after, and he never looked her up again, and so she was really heartbroken by that. And anyway, all of that, but it ends up with them sort of getting together in starting a relationship and all of that. But then there's some different complications. Let's get into my ratings, because there are things that I liked and there are definitely things that I didn't like about the book. First up, the characters, I give them a 6 out of 10. I really enjoyed Hannah in the beginning. I felt like I connected a lot with her way of viewing things, and then I said that she doesn't want to have anything to do with men. I mean, it was basically just that she didn't feel connected to any men when she was out. Not that she was connected to any women either, but she was just not interested in any of the men that tried to pursue her. And she just didn't have any connection, any feelings toward them, and that's something I relate to a lot, because but on the other hand, she has all of her friends that are trying to get her to be with men, find someone she can be with, because they don't want her to be alone, they want her to have some fun. And that was something I connect with a lot. I personally have a hard time feeling attracted to men. I'm not, or women for that matter. I'm not completely, I don't want to say I'm a completely asexual. I've never talked about this actually, but I am probably in the grayer area of that aspect, where I fancy the idea, and that I believe that maybe someday I will meet someone that I will be able to find very attractive. I do come across it every now and then, but it's very, very rare, and I never really do anything about it. Anyway, so for her, because she didn't want to be with any of the men that pursue her, they instantly believe that then she must be a lesbian. And that is something that all of my friends, even my closer friends, because I keep turning down guys, they believe that I am probably a lesbian. And it's just, why? Just because I don't feel attracted to a guy, but just because I don't need this certain guy, doesn't mean that I am automatically a lesbian. I'm pretty sure I would have known, and then I would have started to go after women if I was actually a lesbian. I mean, it's not like that is uncalled for. So that is something that really was something that I could understand where she was coming from. But then there was other aspects that came on later on when she started being with Marco that just annoyed me. There was some way she handled things with with him that I just didn't connect with at all. And then Marco, there's a lot of things as well. Even though I actually like Marco for the most part, I liked him a lot better than Hannah by the end of it. Concerning the atmosphere, I gave that 8. It's more or less the same as the other books. You sort of know the tone of and style of the books that you get into, so I give that an 8. And the writing is pretty good. There's a few moments where I felt like the pacing was a little off. I think that she spent a lot of time on things that wasn't really necessary. There was a specific scene that I didn't understand why she had to add that. It didn't provide anything towards the plot at all, and so I give that a 6 out of 10. And the plot gets also a 6, but yeah, as I said, there was things that didn't seem necessary towards the actual plot, so therefore I have to downgrade it because it doesn't stick to the plot. The intrigue, I was very interested in the beginning parts of it. I think the first 40 minutes I was really hooked to it. Then there was a passage from about the 40% mark until 80% mark, maybe 85% mark, that I didn't agree with, where I felt like the pacing was really slow and there was not a lot of things happening, and the characters did some stupid things, and then there was some plot twist happening that was not really a plot twist, that was just made me annoyed more than it did anything good. And then there was a sort of satisfying ending. So I give the intrigue a 7 out of 10. For the logical part, there are things that were pretty realistic, then there was other things that was not really realistic, so I give that an 8, but overall mostly realistic in the way that it was written and in the plot and all of that. The overall enjoyment I had, as I said, it was a bit boring at places and it should have been shorter. So I feel like it was a little too long. It could have been like 50 pages shorter or something, and it would have been a better book. So I give that 7 out of 10. And that gives an overall score of 6.80, and it gives a rating of 3 stars. The next book that I read was White Hot by Ilona Andrews. This is the second book in a series that I forgot to look up. This series, it follows Nevada, who is in this world they have this sort of magical power where it's based on psychic abilities. So Nevada is able to tell whether people are lying or if they're telling the truth. So whenever she's working for this private investigative office after her father passed away, she takes over that job. And so it comes really in hand that she knows when people are telling the truth or not. So she knows where she gets the real stories, or she has to dig a little deeper to get the real story out of them, because she knows that they're lying. So yeah, but on this, as a part of this investigation, she has to investigate a case where she comes across this guy called Rogan. Mad Rogan is what his nickname is, and he's quite feared amongst all of the people in this town because of some things that he's done. He's quite ruthless. When some people have done something wrong, he doesn't hesitate to just kill them off or remove them from the picture. And they have to work together on a case to try and stop this man. So this one follows after that first case, and again they're getting involved in the same case. I'm not gonna say a lot more about it. The characters, I really just enjoy the characters. They're both really great. I think Nevada is a little better than Rogan, in my opinion. Rogan had some moments where I felt like he was a little bit of a caveman-like person, where he dragged Nevada across to places where when she wasn't really agreeing with it, but it was minor things. But then there was other places where he was just a really, really great genuine person, and I really enjoyed that. So I overall gave this the rating a 8 out of 10. The atmosphere, I just really enjoy this world. I think that the magic system is interesting, and it keeps me, it works really well in this sort of urban fantasy setting, and I give it a 9 out of 10. The writing is really, really excellent. I think that Ilona Andrews is an author team. They are a husband and wife, and you can't really tell there are two people writing the story. It flows really naturally, and yeah, I just think that the pacing is really good and the writing is very gripping, and so I give that 9 out of 10. The plot is, as I said, I just really also enjoy this plot. I think that it works well in this setting, and I think that the characters work well in this sort of plot. And I think that because I even enjoyed both the plot of this investigation thing they have going on, and there are some family dynamics that I really enjoy following between Nevada, the main character, and her grandmother and her mother and her cousins and stuff. As I said, the family dynamics and the plot and the romance plot of this, really excellent. I gave it 8 out of 10. And for the intrigue, I just kept wanting to get back to the story. I really thought that it was really good and really well narrated as well. I think the narrator of the audio does a really great job of capturing the reader's attention. So I give that a 10 out of 10. And the logic is, I don't think there was a lot of things that stood out to be a bad thing, considering the plot and considering the setting, considering everything. So I give that a 9 out of 10. I think that it worked really well overall. And for the enjoyment, I just really loved it, and I gave it a 10 out of 10. I don't have any bad feeling toward it. And just give an overall score of 9 out of 10, and that equals 5 out of 5 stars. So very much enjoyed this book, and I very much recommend this, even as a starter point for Ilona Andrews. I don't think you have to dig into the read Kate Daniels or anything before. This is only a trilogy, so it might be an easier place to start, and then you could dig into her Kate Andrews series afterwards. I had my issues with the second book in Kate Daniels, but I am really excited to get back into that series as well. But I think I'll finish this one first, because then I have a series out of the way. And yeah, I really have enjoyed both stories in this one, so very much enjoyed it and highly recommend it. Since I didn't read a whole lot of different things this week, I wanted to let you know about the sort of books that I've been working on over the week and what I plan on working on over the next week, because I didn't do a Friday reads on Friday either. First up, I have picked up A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is the first book in the All Souls trilogy. I already read this before, so this is actually a reread, but I'm buddy reading this with Becky from Beck's Books. We decided to try and read, at least there's this Goodreads group called the Vaginal Fantasy Book Club, and they have a lot of books on their read list, and we decided to dig into those, and all of those books are written by female authors, or they have a very prominent female main character. They're not all fantasy, but the majority of them are fantasy. There's like, I think an 80 or 90% of them that are fantasy. There's also a little bit of historical fiction and contemporary romances and I think romantic suspense as well, but the majority of it is fantasy, urban fantasy, paranormal romance, that sort of thing. The first thing we decided to dig into is this trilogy, the All Souls trilogy. I already read this one, as I said, but I really wanted to reread it, so I asked her if she wanted to start out with this one, so that I could read on and finish it. I so far have only read the first 26 pages, so I'm really not very far into it, and I know that both me and Becky have been a little bit bad at picking up this book over the past week, but hopefully I'll get a little more read over the next week. Really enjoyed it the first time I read it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I have, as I said, I can't really remember it. It would be nice. I listened to a Danish edition the first time around, so it would be nice to actually read the English version and see how I like that in comparison to the translation. Then I read one story in Night Shift this weekend, and that was an enjoyable story. I hope that I will get a few more stories in over the next week, maybe, possibly, hopefully, we'll see. And then I started on Djævlens Lærling by Kenneth Bøgh Andersen. This is a Danish author, and the title translated to English is basically The Devil's Apprentice. So far I am on page 78 out of, I think, yeah, just over 300 pages. This follows a boy named Philip, and he one day rescues a boy from being hit by a car, and somehow is swept into hell, and by mistake, because they were actually going to be using the boy that was supposed to be hit by that car, because he was a bit of a trickster, and they could use him for the Devil's Apprentice. But because the devil only has one chance of getting someone into to help. Like this, he has to make use of Philip, even though he's one of the good ones. He's generally a nice person, and so that's all I know so far, that he is supposed to become the devil's apprentice so that you one day can take over the task of being the devil. And so I think that's a pretty interesting thing, and so far I've enjoyed it. There's been a bit of a humorous tone to it, but also some darker themes, and I think that the mix is actually really good. So very much enjoying it so far. So I hope that I will be able to finish this by next weekend so that I can give you a wrap up. Apart from that, I also started on another audio for my summer romance bingo, and that is called The Bollywood Affair. This is going to be covering the romance novel that sets outside of my own country. I could obviously have picked so many different books for this challenge because I live in Denmark and not a whole lot of romance books are set in Denmark anyway. But I wanted to challenge myself a little bit and read something that was not in England or the Great Britain in general, or the US. So actually, is it Katie or Kate Cat book? I forgot if it's Katie. I'll put her Instagram handle here. She recommended me a book. It was actually the second in this series, and I'm not very good at starting with a second book in a series. Whether I can read it or not without being spoiled, I'll always stick to reading the first book in a series first. So I picked up this book called The Bollywood Affair, which was the only one available at Storytel anyway. But this follows a girl who meets this boy who is a Bollywood actor. So that is sort of the affair that's gonna happen, I think. And so far I'm enjoying it. The narration style is pretty good, and I like that this has a lot of Indian cultural aspect to the story as well. So that was a nice twist. So I'd like to thank Katie for recommending the second book to me, because otherwise I just don't think I would have found this. So thank you for that. I am probably going to be picking up The Long Walk by Stephen King, or Richard Bachman. Richard Bachman is his Stephen King pseudonym name, and he wrote a couple of books under that name. This is supposedly one of the best ones that was written under the Richard Bachman ones. A lot of people really enjoys it. Almost all of my Goodreads friends give this 5 stars, so I'm very eager to get into it. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Riley. That's why I don't know if I'm actually picking it up. We were supposed to read it this week, but I haven't heard from her, so I don't know if we're actually picking it up or if we would like to postpone it a little bit. So we'll see. But those are the reading plans for the next week. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you've read recently, if you have any of those books that you want to recommend to me, if you think that I would enjoy it based on what you know that I usually tend to like. Also let me know what you're currently reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!